welcome back to the Triathlon Weekly News Roundup presented by thefeed.com. My name's Travis, and this week we've got so much to talk about. We've got the T100 Start List, which just came out. They are absolutely insane. We've got crazy challenge Roth news, courtesy of the Triathlon Hour, which is gonna make that race even more exciting. And we've got to preview that as it's getting closer. So we're gonna dive into a little bit of challenge Roth. We've got Olympic selections all finalized finally, but there was a lot of drama that came along with that. And also the water quality is still not doing so well in the River Seine. So we've got to talk about that. We had two of the fastest ever times run by triathletes on the weekend, which is so intriguing to me. The sport is getting so fast. And then world champion Sam Laidlow finally told us where he's racing next to validate his spot for Kona. And also we've got another epic Pro Series race ahead of us this weekend to take a look at. So lots to talk about. I'm going to try and do better about putting timestamps down below so you guys can skip ahead if you want to. But I do appreciate it if you watch the whole thing through because it improves the algorithm and whatnot so more people can see this. But speaking of, a lot more of you are watching, and especially after I do highlights like the Mont Tremblant video, I get a lot of new subscribers. So I wanted to introduce myself real quick to all the new followers. For those of you who know me, go ahead and skip ahead. But yeah, my name's Travis. I live out in northern Washington on the west coast of the US. I started this channel back in 2022 in August in the lead up to that Kona race, and I was just so pumped about that race coming up, and I thought there needed to be more videos about it. And then it transformed into this eventually, and yeah, never thought I'd be doing this as much as I am. I absolutely love it. Love the pro racing so much and love racing myself too. I haven't been racing too much this year, but I'm gonna do T100 Vegas in October. So if any of you want to join me and see me out racing, I'd love to take you on there at that race. I've been doing this weekly news roundup for most of the life of the channel. Haven't been as consistent as I would like to be recently, but I was really focused on the website and had quite a bit of traveling. So I'm looking to be more consistent in the future, although I'm heading to Europe on Monday for Challenge Roth, and I'm going to stay there for 2 months with a lot of the races going on. So I might not be perfect with it, but bear with me. I'll still keep putting out as many videos as I can. But aside from all that, I do work another job alongside this. I also write for Triathlete magazine, so you can catch my articles on there, and then post as much as I can on Instagram, do a podcast as well. And then I run dailytri.com website with another gentleman who helps me out with that. And we put on Triathlon Fantasy, and we have put our heart and souls into that, so please do go on there and check it out. We think we've got everything on there that you need. We've just put a couple more features on there, like head-to-head between athletes. You can compare their stats. We also now have season leaderboards for the fantasy, so you can compare your score throughout the year to everyone else's, and then also you can compare in your leagues how well you've done. So that's just arrived, and we've got another feature in the works that I think is just going to be the icing on the cake of that website, and I'm so excited for it. But it might be a little while before that one comes out, so stay tuned for that. Please do head on there, check out all those cool features we have on the site. But yeah, I'd love to get to know you guys. If you ever see me in races, please stop me. So many of you have done that recently, and it's just so fun getting to meet other people behind the camera. So that's great for me, and I just want to thank all of you for the support. This has just been such a dream come true doing this, and yeah, can't wait to keep it growing. And if you have any feedback, always leave it down below for me in the comments. But we've got to move on to the news. But before we do, real quick, I want to tell you a little bit about my experience at Ironman Cairns, because I mean, it was insane. This spot is the perfect place. It has no weakness. It's the best spot to bring friends and family. They have so much to do. I was told it's one of the only spots on Earth that has 2 World Heritage Sites meet with the Daintree Rainforest as well as the Great Barrier Reef. Your friends and family and yourself can go there to hug koalas, high-five kangaroos, be terrified of all the things that can kill you, like the crocodiles. Snorkeling, diving, tons of restaurants. Took advantage of lots of that while I was there. And the swim, bike, and run course really has no weakness. It's the Martin Van Riel of Ironman courses. And that run course and finish line was just perfect. 4 laps with a lagoon in the middle so everybody can cool off, swim, and restaurants right there. And yeah, they had a nice touch of putting all the athletes' names on the bib numbers, so people were yelling everybody's names, and all the pros just absolutely love it. So it was such a great experience that I think I'm going to come back and do it next year. And if any of you want to join me, let me know. I think I'm going to do it with my dad, who's racing Challenge Roth next week. So he's focused on that for now. But yeah, couldn't recommend it enough. But okay, finally onto the news. And let's take it to Challenge Roth, where my dad's headed, because we got some huge news from the Triathlon Hour that Tomas Rodriguez, we all saw him win Ironman Texas, shocked us all. He was offered a bonus, apparently, to break the 2-hour 30 marathon for the first time ever in a triathlon. And it doesn't matter if he wins the race. So theoretically, some of you might think like me that he could sandbag the swim and the bike and just go all out to go for that sub 2:30 marathon. But I don't think he will do that at all, because he beat Patrick Lange fair and square in Texas, and he will back himself here again to do the same and pick up what would be the biggest win of his career so far. And I'm just so excited that they're doing this. If this is true, it could make for one of the most exciting runs to watch in triathlon history. I think with Patrick being so close before, it'll definitely fall. And Tomas has said that he thinks he can run a 2:28. So I think it could fall by quite a bit there. And it'll just complement the rest of the race, which is looking amazing. I know I brought up the start list before, but I've got to bring him up again to remind you guys to start getting excited for this one, because Magnus Ditlev is there. He's back, definite favorite, but can he break his world record time again? And will it affect him like it did last year? Remember, he pulled out of the US Open race, and he said it did take quite a toll on him. So he's got T100 London coming up, as well as some other big races. It'll be interesting to see how he goes after this race. But then Kyle Smith is here, ranked now number 3 in the world. He is an insane swim biker and now a crazy runner too. I think Kyle could push him all the way. Peter Hemmerich, he ran a 2:35 at Ironman Portugal last year. He arguably loves this distance more. And yeah, he could really challenge. Rudy von Berg, 4th at Ironman Nice. Beat Magnus at Ironman Florida. And then you've got Daniel Beckard, Jan Stratman, Clement Mignon, Patrick Lange, of course, Tomas Rodriguez, Leon Chevalier. I mean, the list goes on. It's going to be so good. And a tidbit there, at the very bottom of the start list is Lucas Voigt. And he is, I believe, the fastest ever Ironman swimmer. So keep an eye out for him just blitzing the swim course and getting a pretty good gap to start the bike. But then moving on to the women's race as well. Going to be super exciting with Laura Philipp taking on Lisa Norden, who just picked up her 5th Swedish time trial national championship, I believe. And then Els Visser has now added her name to the list. She said she wants the Dutch full distance record. She was 30 seconds off in Hamburg with all her issues there. So she wants revenge and wants to get that record. We know she's been in some insane form this year. And then Anne Reichman, Danielle Lewis, Svenja Thos, Laura Zimmerman. Oh man, it's going to be so good. But Laura, definitely the favorite as well there. But then moving on to the PTO start list for T100 London. 15 contracted women are on the start list. How good is that? That's the most so far of all the contracted athletes. And we've just got Sky Monch and Holly Lawrence off for their pregnancy, and then Taylor Knibb, Flora Duffy, and Taylor Spivey off to the Olympics. But man, I'm kind of glad, don't tell anybody, that Taylor won't be there, because I think it'll just make this race so much closer. I think it could be anybody's to win. I mean, it's a home race for Lucy Charles-Barkley, who has said that she's still all in on this T100 series, and she'll want revenge for Ashley Jensel beating her in Singapore. And then we finally get to see Ashley versus Anne again. Ashley beat her in Singapore last year, and then Anne beat her in Ibiza last year. And finally, we get to see them go head to head. Hopefully, we get that run battle we've all been wanting to see. And then throw in Kat Matthews to that, and oh, this one is just tantalizing. And the wild card selections here, I think, are going to be pretty different for the women's race. You've got 5 spots available, and Marek Matthews said he was able to see the wait list that the T100 have for this, and Sophie Caldwell and Jess Learmonth, 2 short course, insanely good British athletes, are on there, so they could pick up wildcard slots and change this race, with both of them being such excellent swimmers. And then I think Carolyn Pohl has got a real good shot to get one here. She's racing this weekend in Les Sables. And yeah, she's one of the top ranked athletes. I think this could really suit her. Lena Meisner as well, another short course athlete, I think deserves a wildcard spot and could get one. And then of course, I think you've got to pick Laura Madsen after her brilliant performance in San Francisco. And she's also racing at the weekend. So those are the ones I think should get the slots, which could change the race completely. But then you've also got Ellie Salthouse, Jackie Herring, and Els Visser, 3 other athletes who are probably within a shout of getting a wild card there. But on the men's side, much less opportunity to get a wild card here, with 18 of the contracted athletes starting here. Martin Van Riel and Bradley Weiss being the only ones to miss it. Martin's headed to the games. Bradley had said before he was gonna not do this one, but he did post, interestingly enough, that he is doing Ironman Victoria a couple weeks before, which he said is giving him another shot at the Pro Series. So he did Mallorca, I believe, earlier on, got some points there. It looks like because he hasn't performed so well at the T100 races so far, he's going to switch his focus a little bit more. And it'll be interesting to see if other athletes start to follow suit if they're not doing so well at these T100 races. So then moving on to those 2 wildcard slots, which are open, and you'd have to put Yuri Kulin and Kyle Smith. But that sadly does mean that the likes of Mika Newt will miss out here, despite being so high in the season leaderboards. Thankfully, though, I think you'll get more of an opportunity at a race like Vegas, which is so close to Kona, which will have a lot of guys opting out of it. But that's where the season-long narrative gets a little bit muddled up with guys like him not being able to get a spot to race, even though they could really challenge for the whole series. But on top of Mika Newt, I would have loved to see a few more extra wildcard spots, because someone like Vincent Lewis would have been awesome to see here, as well as Casper Storns, who just decimated his last 70.3 race with some insane splits. He's not going to the Olympics and could truly impact a T100 race. So I vote we need to open up some more wildcard slots for the rest of these races, or definitely next year we need to sort that out. But overall, I think these are going to be the 2 best races of the T100 for sure so far this year. Even though we had that epic sprint finish in San Francisco, I would love to see just such tight, close racing on both the men's and the women's races, and I think we're going to get it. And the PTO has truly been improving every race, and so I always look forward to seeing what they do next. And lucky enough, I'll be there in person, and I always get distracted from filming because I'm just too into it and I'm too much of a fan, but I will definitely get some finish line interviews again and as much behind the scenes as possible. But let's switch gears for a second and jump over to the Olympics, where a few of those athletes are missing that T100 race for. We're just over a month out from the games, and we have got all the teams finally in. It was New Zealand that was the last team to select its athletes, clearly having some behind the scenes that wasn't going so pretty, with Taylor Reid not being selected, with Dylan McCullough getting the spot to go to Paris. Taylor put up a pretty heart-wrenching post afterwards saying he threw the kitchen sink at it and honestly thought he'd done enough. He put up a pretty good claim for why he should go, saying he raced 6 of the 7 mixed team relays, which really looked like what that slot was to go to Paris, because Hayden Wild was most likely their best shot at the individual medal, saying he twice put up the fastest time for his leg in the mixed team relay. Clearly wasn't enough for the selectors. He said he left it to the judges' scorecard and they couldn't read. A pretty tough line there, a tough break for him. And yeah, this was coming off of the back of heated decisions of the US we've seen, and Great Britain leaving out Sophie Caldwell and choosing Kate Woff. I mean, a lot of these, I think, were pretty 50-50. They were pretty close, and there was obviously a lot of emotion involved with these athletes only getting this opportunity once every 4 years. And it's just their entire lives. There was a couple of them that were a little bit shady, especially Italy, which didn't take their #1 ranked male by quite some margin, and also with him being better on pretty much every head-to-head stat with any of the other athletes. But the biggest contention points I've seen during this time have been that the athletes didn't have a chance to prove themselves in mixed team relays because World Triathlon had to cancel a few of them, most recently Abu Dhabi, and could have put some on recently to help these team federations know who to send. I've heard lots of people also say they should let athletes know sooner. For example, Kate Woff, after her performance in Pontevedra, should have just got her spot for the Great Britain team, but they make them wait all the way till Cagliari, and then they didn't even really wait that race in the selection process. So yeah, letting athletes know sooner, as it's their entire season on the line. Like, I would hate to be Sophie Caldwell right now trying to decide what to do next. And then the last argument is that you aren't seeing the most competitive athletes, the most stacked start lists at the games, because you have to limit the amount of spots per nation, and yeah, some people are saying that WTCS races are more stacked because countries can send way more than 3 athletes at most. However, my argument to this is that it gives all the nations a fair opportunity to send at least someone for a chance at the games, which I think is what the games is all about. But yeah, this Olympic cycle was tough as a whole, brought up a lot of these points, and yeah, thankfully now I think we can sit back, take a deep breath, and get ready for this awesome race. And if you want to get pumped up for it, World Triathlon just put out a trailer for their new series, their 8-part series leading up into the games, which I am so excited for. And Pro Tri News did an awesome podcast, which just came out today, that you need to check out, where they go a little bit more behind the scenes into the selections. But the one thing that could derail it all is that water quality, and recent testing has been awful. They tested the bacteria at 4 locations along the river, but all 4 came back too high. World Triathlon says they still believe it's all good, says it's due to prevailing weather conditions and heavy rain in the area, and that they have all the faith that it'll be ready to go for the games. But of course, they have to say this not to induce panic. But if it's not good, they will have to move the races to the contingency day, so they'll have to move it back to hope that the river clears up and goes to the correct levels that they can put on a race. And then if it still fails, it'll have to revert to a duathlon, which I don't think anybody wants to see. And you really can't crown the Olympic gold medalist in triathlon. It would have to be the Olympic duathlon gold medalist. So yeah, let's fingers crossed, hope that isn't the case. But taking a break for just a second to talk about the other sponsors of the show, A2 Bikes. Oh my goodness, I have been loving my SP bike this year that I've just gotten. I can't wait to race it at T100 Vegas. They've also released a new all-road road bike called the Rogue. And you can tell from these 2 bikes just how much passion this small team from Oregon has about bringing the best quality at the best price to as many people as they can. And I've fallen in love with this bike so much. My fiance is a little bit jealous, I think. So yeah, can't wait to show it off more. And they just have the best customization options, customer support, and they'll walk with you the whole way through creating your dream bike. So definitely check out A2 Bikes. But we can move back to the other news that this last weekend we had 2 insane run splits. The first one was by Max Studer, who's going to the Olympics, at the on-track night in Vienna, where he ran a 13:25 5K, which I believe is the second fastest ever 5K by a triathlete. Hayden Wild's got a 13:23. And then he jumped on a plane and headed to Zurich, where he got second at the Zurich City Triathlon. So keep an eye out for Max Studer. That guy is a bullet. And then Julie Darren. I'm surprised I haven't heard more about this one. It's Challenge Kaiser Winkelwalski. I'm not sure how to say that, but she ran a 1:12:37 half marathon, which I believe is the fastest ever half marathon split, beating Tamara Jewett. So I need to validate that a little bit more, but she ran another insane run split like that earlier this month. So I think she might be the fastest middle distance runner in triathlon right now. And I can't wait till after the games, because she's heading there. So hopefully she gets a T100 spot and we can see her putting out that run split against Ashley Gentle and Anna Haug and Kat Matthews and Tamara Jewett. It's going to be good to see her. But then finally, we can move on to the news. Sam Laidlow gave us his next race, Ironman Victoria. He's going there to validate his spot for Kona. He'll be up against Bradley Weiss, as we talked about, and the start list hasn't fully come out yet. And I think there's going to be a lot of guys aiming for a last-ditch chance to get to Kona there. We've got Lake Placid as well as Ironman Frankfurt to get spots, but this should be a good one. Sam's been a little bit quiet since Miami, so he'll likely be in good form. And then, of course, he's heading to London. And then finally, this weekend, we've got the Pro Series race in Les Sables in France and 70.3 Ecuador, which is a smaller field, but this one is not a small field. These races are incredibly strong, with Gustav Iden on there looking to validate his spot to go to Kona, his second 70.3 race, which is required. But he could finish 8th or 9th here with his current form and fitness, considering how many strong guys are on here. Rico Bogan and Yuri Kulin, we've seen what they do at the T100 races. Yuri has to pick up his spot for Taupo if he wants to race 70.3 Worlds there. And then Cam Wurf on there is actually also racing, so it'll be fun to see him and how many Pro Series points he picks up. And then on the women's side, I think it's going to be equally as exciting, with about 10 women here who could fight for the podium. I think Carolyn Pohl, who I mentioned earlier, will run away with this one, with Lauren Manson pretty close, but the rest of the field is really tight in the PTO rankings and their ability. So I think it's going to be a blast to watch who ends up on the podium there. So definitely tune in for that one, and I'll make sure I do the highlights as well. But that leads us to finally the hot question. And now I'm so glad we have these polls on the website so I can ask you every week what comes to my mind. I've got two for you. If you could spectate one triathlon, what would it be? The Olympics, Challenge Roth, Kona, or the T100 Grand Finals? So far, the Olympics is number one. I'm surprised not many more of you have said Challenge Roth. I'm telling you, that one is insane. Put it on your bucket list. Definitely head there just to spectate if you can. And then, should triathlon have a stage race like the Tour de France? Obviously, I've been watching the Netflix series and just so can't wait for the Tour de France to start. Might also get to a stage, hopefully, on this Europe trip. But yeah, so many of you saying no. I think it would be fascinating. Obviously, it works for the Tour de France. I think it could be quite good. But let me know your objections down below. But thanks for watching as always, and we'll see you in the next one.